will have a good copy. I'll get this up probably about like next class, like when I start next class, I'll go upload this one. But like I said, I have been putting these in this little in-class video file that lives. If you go to under the rigging project, if you go to the project info, I still need to update the rubric and the sheet, basically, since we kind of ended up scrapping the original plan. I haven't updated it yet. But I'll explain today kind of what we're going to do for your actual grade, because this all kind of will tie in. But I do have that in-class video link here if anybody wants to come back and watch any of these. But under assets, I do have those checkpoint files. So I highly, highly recommend. I think everybody who tried to stick with their own files, has anybody still working in their own file? Has everyone bailed and switched to the checkpoints? I know I had a couple scragglers in the last class that were like, no, I'm still in my own file. And in the last class, they were like, nope, I broke everything. So all the points, all the orientations got flopped at some point for a bunch of people. And so if you want to start with a solid file, I highly recommend that controllers file that I have there.
Is this the same one we used last class?
It is. This is kind of where we left off. If you did everything, we left off where if you finished, you could set up the second hand. So you had all those controllers and locators. I know it's been like a month. It feels like since we've had class. Most people probably did, but I basically said as long as you set up the one and you were comfortable and you understood what you were doing here, why we put all these here, how we did those, it's basically the gist of it. So
Do you have that one?
this one is that one that's in here, the all controllers number 3 one. So they should be sequential: first day, second day, third day. I am not going to put today's in there because at this point, the stuff we're going to do today, I'm going to go through it with y'all, but the stuff we're going to do is the same stuff we've been doing. So the idea of kind of parenting all your controllers so that they move with each other, and the idea of using that connection editor to hook up and basically say however the little controllers rotate is what's going to rotate your joints. Same thing we've been doing. So at this point, this file, you're on your own. So you should be able to do this. I'm here and I'll definitely walk through and help everybody. But at this point, if you kind of just stick to it, you should not break anything. But the way we're going to do this as far as everyone's grade, and I'm going to update this here today on the little sheet first so everybody can see kind of specifically what we're looking for. You should be able to knock this out today. Really should not be that hard. We're going to finish up our rig. You will have a fully working FK rig. So if anybody is like super curious and wants to play around with IK stuff, I can show you how we can do that. We can kind of just tinker off to the side and kind of make a leg move or something. But you'll have a fully working FK rig. So once you have that, and once we have gone through the process of like hiding and locking out the stuff that we don't want to break, then it will be on y'all to show that you made your rig work. So I'm going to poke through your Maya files when you turn this in. So be sure when you submit stuff, we are going to submit a Maya file. You shouldn't need an archived one. You should just be able to save a .ma or a Maya file and upload that. Because I think everything we have in here has been in here from the start, so we shouldn't need an archive file. So a regular Maya file and either a play blast, or you can just take screenshots if you really, really want to. But I want everyone to do 3 poses. So 3 poses using is pretty much all the controls if possible. So like try to do the fingers, try to do different stuff like that. But use all the different controls that we made, and you're going to do some sort of dynamic pose. So think like Spider-Man, think like somebody jumping, dancing, some sort of fun dynamic pose, not just like having your hand in the air. So in order to do that, honestly, my favorite way to do that, go find a picture you like. Seriously, if you like Spider-Man, he's a great one. Go find a picture of Spider-Man and match that pose. That's a great idea of how you can do it. And if you did that, I would love to do reference photos in. You can make a little folder in the deliverables thing with your name. You can put any reference pictures or anything that you have. But reference is always going to be a great way to show me that, like, hey, here's what I was looking at and here's what I did. So, actually, let's do that. Y'all find reference images. It could be your favorite movie. It could be you. It could be a roommate. It could be whatever you want. But just get some images, some stills, like 2, 3 stills of whatever you're trying to match, and then match it. Show me you can take those controls and best you can match it. We're not doing weight painting in here. So we did that thing. Remember that weird name Delta Mush thing that we did that made the rig look not quite so wobbly. Like you bent the arm, it didn't look like spaghetti as much. That's kind of like a shotgun blast of like, let's try to fix your skinning as best you can. We're not really getting into weight painting, but that's basically where you can go through and like literally like paint on the geometry where you want to allow it to bend versus not like what's squishy, what's hard. So like where stuff can move, where it can't. We're not going to really get into that much. If anybody wants to tinker with it, you are welcome to. But I know like right now the fingers come out a little bit funky because they're really close together, and we could go through and like fine tune that so the fingers can actually like independently bend. But that'll be the gist, is that y'all, after we finish up all this stuff, you're just going to find 3 images of whatever you want, favorite whatever, and try to put your character best you can in those poses. So it's just to show that you can manipulate all the controllers. They're all hooked upright. Everything is moving correctly with them. If you want it to look pretty for your screenshots, your play blast, or anything like that, you can turn off all the controls so you don't see them. I don't even see those in stills. But what else? If you do it as a play, like if you do it as a play blast, well, basically the best way to do this is going to be go to a frame, set all your keys just like we did with the fox. We're back in like the animation world now. Set all your keys just like you did with the fox now, and then you can go to another frame, even though it's 1 frame over. Set all your keys, and so that it would literally, if you go from 1 frame, next frame, your character will kind of pop into those 3 poses. So that is going to be the best way to go about setting your poses. But this is basically showing if you paid attention, if you came, if you were participating in everything, you should be able to polish it out today and get it in a good spot that you can then manipulate it enough to make it work. But if I get into somebody's file and I see like joints have been moved, not controllers, because you didn't hook up the controllers, then I'm going to be like, well, you didn't set it up right. So very easy if you've been here and participating, which I think everyone here has. So this should be pretty easy for everybody. But as soon as we get in a good place with this, y'all are good to go. Y'all don't need to stick around. If you want to, you have help. Hey, you have me. You can bug me. You can do whatever you want. But we will start doing all of that. So if you have this checkpoint file, we can open it up and take a look at it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on all my controls that we have had thus far in here, and mine are all nice and yellow. So if you remember, I actually don't remember which ones we hooked up in here, which ones we still needed to hook up. Let's see. Yeah, so you can see like we hooked up some of the joints, but we haven't parented stuff. So here, before we go ahead and do the connections on all these little controls so that the little controllers control the finger joints and all the different things we don't have yet, we're going to go ahead and set up our parenting, because I know this was starting to drive people crazy to see this set up like this. So I believe, let me see, I haven't done this one in a while. If you select all of these things and go to, there's an expand all. All right, well, I'm going to be lame and click them all. But remember, we're going to have to see all of these things because of how we have to nest this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and open up all of these things we made. And I promise I'll go look up how to, actually, there's one button you hit that like just opens all of these, and I don't remember what it is. You start from the bottom, it's a lot easier. Okay.
Is it show all components in display?
Maybe.
No display? Yeah.
No,
Like
that's going to actually, so display is actually usually going to show, remember how we showed the shapes on that one time? It's going to show like everything. So it'll open, it's not actually going to expand. I'm looking for like an expand all, but I can't remember where it is. That's okay. It's not too many. All right, so if you look at some of these controllers that we had all in here, in this rig folder, we had the ones that are nice and neat and nested that we did. Remember, we can kind of do like this sort of thing and see like org, control. They have to kind of live in that order. So we can kind of do the same thing up here. So since most of what we have in here is fingers, I'm going to go ahead and start with the fingers. They're pretty straightforward. So it's basically going to be starting little to big. So if I'm starting with like the tip, way too zoomed in. Like the tip of the finger, like this guy here, I can see that this one's, they're in kind of a funky order since we have them all dumped in here. But index 4, if you named them right, but you're inheriting my file, the bigger the number, the farther down the finger they are. So if I grab, remember we're grabbing the org for that thing, and middle click and dragging it into the control for the one below it. Or the one above it. I'm sorry? Above it. I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. So it'll be like 4 is nested inside of the control for 3. And it's basically rinse and repeat for the same thing. So once you get that, then you would drag that word for 3 into 2. And now we start to have this chain of 2 has 3 living inside of it, that is 4 living inside of it. And so now, so you're going to grab, here I'll undo it and I'll show you one more time. So we're always going to be moving the org groups, those locators. So if I middle click and drag the org, I need to expand this one, the org of 4 to live in the control of 3. Remember, if you get that little dotted box, that means it's going to drop it in there. I think this is much easier than actually clicking and doing, like, you can do the, like, select them all and then do P, like select the first one and select the next thing. I think this is much easier because you can actually see, like, control, or, and see if it's ordered correctly and you did it right. So I think this is just a little bit easier to do it in Outlier. But yeah, so you're always going to grab the org of the one down the line from it and drag it into the controller of the one above it. And if you kind of follow that rhythm, if you opened all these up, that's pretty easy to get to the tip of that joint. So like now, if I was to grab just that controller and rotate it, and you should check these as you go, make sure you got them all hooked up right, the ones down the line should always move with it. So if you're able to do that one, you should be able to go do the finger and the thumb. So it's pretty straightforward once you start getting into them. Is everybody able to kind of get those nested the way that they should be? I don't know. If anybody wants to come check, let me know. But just select it in your scene if you need to hunt it down and see where it's at. But when you get like the whole, like I have the index finger here, it should look like this. So I'll leave this up for a second so y'all can see it. Does anybody need help? You doing okay?
You're dragging the org. Yeah. And then you're dragging it into the small one. Or the whatever it is. Control. You're dragging the org into the control. Okay. Not into the other. And then it Is everybody else getting it okay? Or you should like that? There's always going to be worms go into stuff like if you open the old casket like that, she'll just have door control. So that's as long as you have that door control pattern repeated, you probably just stay away. So now you can go from 4 to 3. So 3. So we're going to go from there. So down is going to be comfortable with what we can see. We're going to go from like down. Really, how was your break? So you're out of order. Yeah. Well, I've seen on magazine she was like red numbers there. So that it's a good one and drag it into control. I know. It was really nice. You just like walked up. This is why naming is so important because you kind of are relying heavily on the names. So now if you can, and drag that in control on one. And you can press that and you make sure it's working just by grabbing just those controllers and trying to rotate them and see the ones down the line. So I grab this one and bend it. They're not controlling the fingernails, but they're actually just the controllers should move. That's right. So now you have an example you can keep up and try and get the fingers to work. Okay. Okay, babies? Yeah. Doing okay? So if you get the one finger, if you get like the index finger, go ahead and do the other chunky finger thing, and you can do some on both hands. Is it all? Done converting. So yeah, go ahead. I'm going to do this one. Go ahead and hook up the rest of your fingers on both hands. If you haven't already, so like the left hand, right hand, like all the other digits. So like fingers 3. It should be pretty quick if you've got this all like opened up and if everything is properly in here. And again, don't forget you should be checking them as you go because then
If you break it now, you'll be able to tell very easily compared to once we get stuff hooked up. But org to control.
I was about to ask you what you said just now.
Oh. So just remember the org and select and goes into the controller. Do that, you should be good. But if you were all said and done, you should end up with basically these 4 little cascades for the hands. Ooh, what did I do? I broke something.
How to fix.
And I think like a lot of y'all are kind of seeing, it's real easy to accidentally click the wrong thing. So just kind of keep an eye. See, like I did. I messed this up. But if you do make a mistake, it should be pretty easy to hunt down what the mistake was. So I'll let everybody take a second and get their fingers all hooked up. But when all said and done, you should have something roughly like this. That you should be able to expand them if you want and see these nice little cascades for each digit. And they should all work. So if you, is everybody kind of got fingers hooked up? Some people still hooking? Okay, cool. So if you get that, I mean, it should be pretty straightforward now of where would you assume you're going to now parent all of these guys? Probably to your wrist. So we, same thing, we have our wrist controller. We got to actually go hunt down where that is though, because it lives up in that rig control group at the tippy top. So if you expand that out, like on your left hand, you'll be able to see that controller. It's at the bottom of the pile here. So it would be no different than selecting that org for like the back of your hand part of the fingers and middle click and dragging that to the control for the hands. So now if I was to grab that controller and move it, the hand was already hooked up, but now you'll see that one finger moves with it. And I'm literally going to do the same thing with the other fingers. So the thumb, the finger, and the index finger. So I would grab from in here, I'd grab whatever the tippy top of those little cascades that we made were. Like if it was collapsed, it would be the thing you see like that, like just the org. It's going to be index 1, finger 1, thumb 1. The org, though, grab that, middle click and drag that to live in the control for the hands. Yeah, so see now I have my control for the hand. I have 3 things that live directly underneath it. So if you do it right, you should have your control, and then nested underneath that are those little cascades that we did for the fingers. Yeah. Let's see. There's a lot of circles fingers and make it really hard to look at with all the little pointy locators, so we will hide those soon. But yeah, see our service.
No,
So you get the other.
this guy was fine. I'm gonna do.
That looks right. Yeah, that looks right, because that's basically saying they're all living on the same level. So here's your wrist, and this is controlling this, this, and this. So you do that. And if you grab the wrist and move it, you'll be able to see all of the things move with it. Anybody else need some help? We have a nice neat thing of 3 fingers living under there, so you can go ahead and do your right hand as well. So I'm gonna go hunt down where my control for that wrist is. There's my control. I'm gonna give it my fingers, my index, and my thumb. If I open that up, I should have my 3 things living at the same level, like a straight line like this right below it. If I grab it, it should move everything, just like that. Yeah.
My fingers are like, I mean, one of them is like weirdly messed up, so I figure it out. And I cannot figure out where this one finger was like attached to. So it was like I had everything fine except it was like my index finger. It was like off. I searched and I knew like what was it like.
You got good hands? Cool. Well, if you got your hands hooked up, now we actually get to play the fun game of seeing what all we forgot to hook up last class, because I actually don't remember what we didn't hook up. All right, so it looks like we did hook up. All right, we did not hook up the head and the neck. So those controllers aren't parented under each other. It's actually kind of easy to see because we can look and see if it's not nested nice and neat under our rig controls, it's not set up correctly yet. So the head and the neck should be pretty straightforward as far as same sort of thing. We're just going to start at the end, which would be the tip of your head. So kind of like that one, the tip of the head one, head 1. We're going to stick that under the controller for head. So now the head control, this one like kind of like the bigger one in the middle of the head, should move that top one. We did this a little, like, there's really no right or wrong order, but we already set up the parented, like the connections to the joints for some of these and not others. So we're going to go back and clean that up on the fingers afterwards. But then you would want to do the head to the neck, neck to the other neck. So it's just going to basically kind of do the same thing like we did on the fingers, but working in reverse, like from the head. So head 1, oh, which I didn't rename that, head 1, to head, to neck 2, to neck 1. So now if I grab, it's very hard to see with all the little thingies on, it'll be a lot easier in a minute here, but if I grab that little controller at the base of the neck, it should move all the ones up above it. And it's, again, pretty straightforward. What we're going to do from there, we're going to hook it into the spine until we get to the hip. if you do all that right, you should be left with something like this. Does that make sense for everybody so far? Ooh, I did that wrong. Ooh, wait, I actually broke something. I did something very off on mine. If you make a mistake, sometimes just undoing it is easiest. It's real easy if you ever open these up. You can see if it doesn't do this pretty little cascade, if you have something where like two things are on the same level, something went wrong. And usually if you look at the names, you can figure it out. Like I said, the control and head one, I forgot to rename, so it's just this head. But, so this should basically be your setup for your spine, for your head. You want a nice, pretty little org control cascade. So I'll leave all this stuff open while we're going with stuff so everybody can kind of see what's going on. But at this point, we should the only thing left kind of living outside of anything is our shoulders. So we need to hook those in. So if you remember, our shoulders are these two right here, kind of this makes this Y. And those are all parented into this one. So that means we would want it to be driven by this controller, which is this guy, spine 2. So this is the only one that's going to be a little funky. Is to hook our shoulders in, we're going to hook them into spine 2. So I can grab my shoulders, and that's the only thing you kind of got to remember which one it is. So spine 2. And it's going to kind of throw off the little organization of my stuff. So I'll have my little perfect cascade that I had from the spine through the head. But I'm also going to have the shoulders kind of living off in their own little land down here. But now, if I select there, stuff moves. Like my controllers aren't all moving quite yet, but the arms will kind of move. Or the upper arms, the joints. So if you get that far, we basically can tell what we need to hook in still now, because it's the only stuff not moving with it. What's going on with yours?
I don't know. Sounds pretty right. I thought we were gonna so yeah, that's right.
So now we need to hook in the arms and the hands and all that stuff. you grab the orbs, the little like plus sign looking deals, and you try to move them, it's not going to move everything around. That's why we're always going to use those controllers. Yeah. Not entirely. So, oh my goodness, no, you are very much smaller, please. So you should never manage the actual joints. So all the way down the first step. Oh, okay. So I think so. No, I think. So it should be doing that. Oh, weird. There you go. That's what you want to parent call it. Yeah, you kind of see how I have like hand R's up right there on mine? It should have fingers, index, and thumb. Yeah. That would be right, yeah. Yeah. See, like, you see how my shoulders come really fast, straight line down, and spine is perfect. That's actually right. Yeah, that's a couple people have that problem. Easy fix. Easy fix. Easy. Easy. Is that what you're thinking? That's really good. Same thing with the one here. So you would select a little control or a wrist. Find that. So it's a little up. Yeah. You get that and you get that. And that is what you're going to put everything in. Opening orbs. So the orb index, finger, thumb, and then drag and put everything. Flip that. Drag that. So same thing, you should have at the same one, index one, thumb one. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It wouldn't be the best thing in the world. Okay, I'll take a look after you get that. Is it you? Does it work? Yeah. Noise. Alright, now get the other one hooked in. Everybody else doing okay? Not hearing screams, so. Alright, so if you've gotten this far and you have survived, now you're able to hook up your arms. So we have our shoulders, these little guys here. Remember our little funky like shoulder pad Pringle things? So we can expose those. That's these ones that live at the bottom of this whole like hip setup that we have. And now we're gonna go way up here. I'm gonna collapse this so you can see a little bit better. So we made these things for our upper arms already. So it's super easy. We're literally just going to take, we have both these guys at the top. It's like, remember, if you open up that rig control, you have these two here. We want both of these. So the arm L is going to live under shoulder L. Just like that. Arm R, the org, is going to live under the control for the shoulder R. Just like that. And if you do that right, now everything should move with it. At this point, if you've successfully done that, everything should be controllable from the controls. It won't move it should move, if you grab like this one down here, the spine 2 one, and move it, it should move just like you see here. If it's not, something I hooked up. Very easy to slide on. It'll be way more straightforward once we hide the fingers. Everybody else able to get it so far?
Did you get your photo yet? No? Are you still looking?
When you get it,
I was gonna wait till all of these space and sell it and then
The quiz that we have for Caruso is due February. Yeah, she just says. Those are the words. I'm probably gonna do. All you're gonna do. I'm gonna do it that way because she's so smart.
yeah, I was going off all that stuff.
Right.
It's a minute.
No, it's not doctor, but it involves allergies.
So, this is the easy flavor of rigging. If I just said y'all loose and said, here is the instructions, make a rig, every one of y'all would have ripped your hair out. You couldn't take that kind of class anymore. So this is why we're doing rigging like this, because I don't want y'all to hate me and life. So
And this is the easy way?
this is the easy way. This is why we're doing this like this. Now y'all will have an exposure to rigging when we get into our files now, and you see how stuff moves, and if it doesn't move the way you want it to, and all that stuff, you'll at least understand who screwed up where and kind of who to blame. Absolutely. Any job that you do, every studio, everything, they all have their own flavor of how they like to do stuff. Okay. And the way I'm showing you here may not be exactly how they want to do it, and they may have very specific styles, names. Yeah. So, and any studio you ever go to will provide training of the way they want to do it, and they have documentation, and they have all sorts. You're never just thrown into there and going like, clearly you know how to rig, go. So. No, it would be like, here is how we do it. Here is how we name it. Here is how we do everything. Here's our custom tools that make life way easier, because studios have magical people called TDs that love to code and will make you special tools that you can literally push a button and it'll hook all this stuff up for you, because people at studios don't want to spend time doing stuff like this. So you have these magical wizards called TDs that make your life easier. So if any of y'all like coding, go be a TD wizard. You will always, rigging and TDs will always get jobs because, as you can see, this is very monotonous and not people's favorite thing. So if you like doing this stuff,
I don't mind it, it's just tedious.
It's mega tedious.
You have to have a lot of patience.
And this is a simple rig. So we didn't even get into like facial mechanics and stuff, like making mouths move, making a tongue move, making eyes react and stuff. Those are all controls that you would have to rig and put stuff into. You see, like usually, I'm gonna think for the dialogue one, we'll have a character that you can do a little bit of that. But usually, it kind of looks almost like a mask, a sheet mask, hanging out in front of their face of controllers that you can like control all these like little things in front of their face, kind of little, very much like our little green controllers like we have here, but just kind of living there, and you move all the different pieces and parts. So they get really complicated. So this is the simple flavor. So, you know. All right, though, if you have this much, I'm gonna go ahead and rename this for me. All right, so if you have this, if you can literally, close this up and you have something minimized that looks like this, you're doing good. We have everything hooked up right. But everything is going to hook into our hip. So right now, if I was to select my hip and rotate it, the leg controllers don't come with it. So this should be pretty easy to follow. You are going to just grab those orgs for the thighs and stick them in that hip control. It's the same thing. You want to go org to control all the time. But if you do it right, you should end up with connected to your control group for your hip. You should have the spine and the thighs. And now, if you grab that control and move it, everything should come with. It's got its whole own weird hierarchy that lives into it. The what? Yes, it won't move quite yet till we actually go hook all that stuff up. Well, it should do this. Actually, wait, yours wasn't.
You need to go in
You have the locator selected. Yeah, if you select the locator of any of these and try to move it, it will only move your rig right now. It will not move your character, the joints. Yes. But I'll bring up what's normal. Yeah, that's right. That was perfect. So make sure you're saving your stuff as you go. If you've already got this hooked up and you don't want to cross it anymore. So, because just open up that file there. So that error is normal. It was just a null script folder and something wrong with the file. Just remind me. And yeah. We'll take a look at it. Sometimes it does this where if you ever get, if Maya does crash on you, sometimes it likes to leave like a ghost version of Maya that's living in the back of your computer. So that's why going through the task manager and making sure you kill everything. That's as Maya is really helpful. Yeah, get that back open because it crashed. You lost everything. We're gonna get it. But I mean, it should be pretty logical once you kind of start doing this and you look at it. You're like, well, what does the shoulder need to connect to? Well, it needs to connect to this thing, so that thinks the thing literally connected to it. What is this hooking to? Well, connects to it's the whole like, what bone connects to what bone. So if you have this far, congratulations, you've done good. So now we need to go hook in all of our controls that we have not hooked up yet. So This stuff is great. Now we need to go and make it so that like our fingers, because right now if we bend the control for the wrist, everything goes with it. Like the actual hand will move. But if we go grab parts of the fingers and try it, nothing happens yet. So we need to go do that connection editor again, which is tedious and a pain. So remember, it's under Windows, General Editors, Connection Editor. So you can just keep it up on your side of your screen, but this is the part that there's a lot of digits in these fingers, y'all. We set up a lot of little things, and it's very tedious and cumbersome looking. Basically lock in on it and just kind of pick one and make sure you match the right thing. But I'm going to start, if you want to do it from over here, you can, if you prefer to make sure you're selecting the right stuff. Like you can definitely go through and make sure you're doing it like that. Or you can just click it through here, but you only want to click the controller, not the locator. So not these spiky locators, just the little circle. We're always going to load that on the left. And we're going to load the matching joint on the right. And then remember, we're going to hook it up by rotation. Once you kind of line these up and get this so you can hunt down what you're trying to hunt down in here, the first time you shouldn't have to worry about it. It should work from here on out. So now if I grab that controller, it'll move stuff. And you're literally going to go through every single one of both of these hands and connect these. So I left the tedious part to make sure that y'all can do on your own. So I will do it while I'm sitting here so y'all can just kind of keep watching of doing this. But the tedious parts is making sure that you click the controller, reload. Click the joints, reload. Somebody will, if they have not already, make the mistake of clicking the wrong one or forgetting to reload one and do like this sort of thing where you say like, all right, I'm on my next one, reload. And then you go through here and you're like, wait, it's grayed out. Why can't I do that? You can always check here at the very bottom. It shows you what you have loaded. So here I can say I have the control for index 3, but I'm looking at the joint for index 2. So I would know I need to actually update to that. It'll give you this nice bold option to select when you have something selectable. So if you have the wrong thing selected, it's just not going to be able to be selected. But each one of those you do. You should be controller and then joint. So if just controller on the left, the matching joint on the right. You should always be able to double check it here at the bottom. It should just say control for that name, so index 4 in this case, and then the deformer, which is the joint, for that matching one. That was grayed out. I'm curious why. But test it as you go. This is the one that testing it is super important, because if you don't test it like that one, I just grabbed this one, something wasn't hooked up right there, and it's super easy to make a mistake. So now I can reload that and be like, well, something didn't connect that I need to connect. But every single one of these I need to test. If they don't do that, something got hooked up wrong. Right, so in that one, you're connecting the joints to the joints. So look on your bottom, you have the joint for index 3, and on the right you've loaded the joint for index 4. So that's not right. So we always want the controller. So one of these like little lollipops that we made for one, so I'll do like index 4, the controller, and load that on the left. We're always going to do the controller is on the left. The joint is on the right. And you can always check it against the bottom. You should always have control in big bold letters and the name of the joint, index 4L in this case. controllers to a deformer. So we're basically saying take the whatever the controller is doing and give that information in the rotation to that same joint. Yeah. So now if you grab, you rotate that one, it should move. Yeah. So just make sure, double check, like actually go through. This is one that you're going to want to check because this is one that I am going to check this in y'all's Maya files because this is like the one part that shows that y'all have paid attention and you've learned rigging and you're rigging masters now. So make sure that you go through each one of these little controllers and that they are actually working and doing what you said. See, like I said, like see how this is kind of deforming funky on the actual skin? That's expected because these guys, like how much these fingers are basically touching. What's happening there is the joints are kind of like when one bends here, the influence of this is starting to affect the skin on the other one. So that's pretty. Yeah, go ahead and do both hands.
What about the thumb? The thumb like bends backwards.
Let's go see. So the thumb is a little funky because the controllers are, you can see they're pointed in different directions. So if you hook up the thumb right, and I know how hard this is to hunt the stuff down in here because it's very yellow and lots of lines and stuff happening. But if you get that hooked up, it should select the right thing.
I fixed it.
Oh, okay, good. It should let you bend that stuff. So just make sure, take your time and make sure each controller is doing what it's supposed to do. Because I've already made a mistake. It's very easy to do. Rotate to rotate. The wonderful, tedious world of rigging. So it is a lot of selecting and clicking. But once we do this, we should never have to touch this stuff ever, ever, ever again. Make sure all my stuff moves. So go through and make sure you get both of your hands hooked up the way you want them. And then we can start hiding some of this stuff so we don't go so crazy looking at it. And remember, if you run into the problem where your stuff's on rotate and it's hard to select joints, just click away into the gray area of your screen and it'll make it a lot easier to reselect stuff. So far, so good?
Is that supposed to happen on the thumb?
No. What just happened?
I don't know.
Oh, undo. So, see, remember, check on the bottom. See if your orb selected. Control V. Okay. So, yeah, so let's do this. So you have the joint select. Select that joint. So see where on the side there where it's yellow in the very far right of the screen? Those yellow guys. So select.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, you're fine. These three right here. So select those three. Just click and drag.
said so.
So now you can try it. Actually, hold on. It should be letting me do this because I just broke the phone. It's the same as doing control C though. It should let you.
Sometimes it just makes me.
Did you do it manually? There you go. Okay, so now you should be good to keep going.
You said so whenever like so whenever like bends, that's because it goes to the other one.
It's because if you bend your fingers and you're seeing how warping happening in skin that's normal, it's because the fingers on this hand, like normal hands are not modeled with the fingers touching together, they usually split out a little bit. So that when you bend stuff, they bend appropriately. So this is that's why the thumb looks okay, but the fingers are kind of around.
Yeah.
So we can clean that up if we had time with weight beating.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. Probably. As long as it's in control. Anybody else doing okay?
I'm saying in my mind, I was just saying,
Wait, what happened?
I'm saying control that in my mind.
That's just weird.
probably have to do all the.
Yeah, okay. So we said that's the mail strip code, and you want to load the file to sign it. So. only one in there's one in Michigan. Is what the functional ones I'm doing. So that's why we're from one. Definitely control from one. Okay, so. Oh, these are both on one. Let's see which one we use. But it's just a week. They're weird. And then every other one is that. And I just
We're almost still in time. So now, because you haven't looked at anything I did over the past 2 years, as long as you make sure these streets right here are all over. Everybody's saying as you go. Yes.
Okay, so my right hand has a problem with my left hand. They did all these right. Look, it's moving. I don't know why. That's the finger right there. So I don't know why they're not separate. And it did all this. Like, okay, so this one is fine. Okay, it looks great. None of them move together.
Oh, you're saying like how the actual fingers are sticking apart?
Yeah.
It's the same way that like that left arm looks a little spaghetti-like, or like
Okay.
the right hand side arm looks. Oh.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's just a weight thing, right? If it's moving, yeah, you have to flip it.
Okay.
So it's just deforming a little bit funky.
Okay.
So don't worry about it.
Okay.
But it's okay.
Okay. No, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
I am. Anyone want to do a sleeping for me at my place? No. Yes.
No, that's another super day. It's 10 o'clock.
You gotta go.
It's
It's
a
honestly not
sleeping
really
party,
it's a
not a
nap
sleep
day.
over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a nap
I think
party.
we keep it like what? Like 3 people. We have to go I get some sweaty advice and we have to look at it. Yes, I need one of those big ass fans. I have a projector and I have a cat, so technically it'd be like 4 of us, but you know, if anyone wants to do a house party at my place, let's go. Yeah, so like, 5 people. Whenever I have people come over, I'm like, can we take a nap?
Yeah.
Like my best friend Claire, she'll come over and I'm like, I'm gonna go to bed. She goes, you know what? Me too. So we both get hard bed.
That's perfect.
It is like that's my go right there. Like I could sleep for the rest of the night. I love them. It makes me so happy. Like I love getting rest. And I've gotten like no rest this week, so I've been walking all over New Orleans.
Okay, if y'all want to take a little break, go for it.
My eyes are red. I just want to watch YouTube documentaries. None of the flavors are good this week. They're like thin ones. It's a thin freaking cookie. So now look at it. It's better. Exactly. Exactly. I can do what's coming next. There's a sugar cookie of like the circus animals. Because that place is that amazing.
I think
I'm a pink member, so.
oh, so you get to see the nuts. I
Okay, I want to take a break. Take a break. I'm gonna pick up the rest of my fingers.
like he rates obviously.
There is a king cake cookie. Here.
Is that just me?
Yeah, that's later. That's off the 10 to Target.
Do they get to choose to do that, or is that like?
Yeah, so they get to choose which one they want. Like, and Hammond, there is the Pelicans cookie. And then Covington, there's the confetti cake cookie.
Interesting.
And New Orleans, there's the Pelican cookie. Baton Rouge is the only one with the confetti.
I was supposed to learn so you can do the thing for the cookies.
Let's see what cookies they got.
Yeah, exactly.
What cookie in my neighborhood? There is, ooh, there is a strawberry birthday cookie, a Dubai chocolate strawberry brownie cookie, and a Bahamas M&M's cookie. They have the strawberry birthday and Dubai chocolate brownie. What's cheese, which is sweet, and then they have Angus green brownie. We're the only ones with the cake.
So if you are a member, you get put up where the super menu was. They don't remember.
You can, but like in or with someone that has it.
Because it's like you have to.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever had a couple of
I eat so many crumble cookies, like my mouth really feels like it's like
Oh my god.
so I have to very excited.
Yeah, no, it's like, you tell where
I follow like 20 different Instagrams, so I just see it.
I'm actually realizing, I'm just saying, lightsabers aren't real. I have not used them.
Oh my god, I am so excited for House of the Dragon Season 3.
Oh my gosh, it's coming
No, I'm not like, I'm just like, who the fuck comes out
My
with
daily
Final
year
Fantasy
of
songs?
sex Like in the
Yeah, years big obsession with the drones in my house.
I know my friends have their plans this weekend. I actually got my collection for the drones and all of that. And I got this like tracking information from Hustler Dragon, I think. And I was like, wow, that's super excited. And I got this.
I think we got everybody back. All right, let's finish this thing up so everybody can have a fully working rig. If anyone's having anything in particular that's still going to have trouble, let me know and we can kind of dig into that together. But at this point, if y'all were able to get that far, you should essentially have a fully working rig where your stuff all manipulates, like you can turn on all the different parts of the Geo and see everything. You should be able to bend stuff and see him bend. So all rigs have a limit to how far they can bend. Like y'all are kind of seeing, especially in like the hands, kind of the funkiness that like sometimes these work a little okay. Sometimes they, especially this hand seems to be a little on the funky side. I'll show you like this wrist seemed like a good one. I'll show y'all real quick how weight painting works so you can see. If y'all are curious. So the way that we're getting kind of these warpy things, we're not going to really go into weight painting, but just so y'all see what it is, it's pretty cool. I think it's actually kind of fun to go do. But you wouldn't want, if this was a real person, you wouldn't want this bone to be like bendy and wobbly like this. So what we could do in that case is called weight painting. So that works based off of the actual joints that we have in this body. So like the little actual joints we made. But that lives under this menu called skin, paint skin weights. So if you open up the little thing for it, it gives you this funky little menu. Paint skin weights. So if you open the little menu, it gives you a funky looking little menu in here. So if you select a joint, actually, yeah, I clicked out of it. So select a joint and go to that paint skin weights menu. It should look like this. Kind of this funky, colorful, funky, weird menu. So it gives you it breaks your stuff up into these like clusters of skin up here, which is a little weird. You can kind of see what it is, like what's affecting it if you click through them. Usually I just kind of like go through and actually click all of them because I like to select everything so I can have everything in here. But if you select a joint, oh, it's not doing it now. Why is it being weird? This was just working. It has some tools. Oh, because I told you the wrong thing. We have to select our skin. That's why. Select your actual skin. So the bony Geo, you have to select it through the outliner. So if you select that and then go to paint skin weights and that little menu. Now, if you select those different skin clusters that'll show up in here, and it's a bunch of them. So I usually like to just kind of select everything. But now if you were to go in and go find that joint, so like lower arm L, was that one I was tinkering with? You can actually kind of paint in here how this is going to be influenced by stuff. So it's pretty straightforward. It's got a lot of stuff in here. I don't expect y'all to know this. I just wanted y'all to see it in case you were curious. But you can make, it starts off, this tool starts off ginormous. I clicked the wrong thing. It's kind of a pain to navigate through here. So you do have to have this Geo selected. It's a funky menu. But once you kind of get the hang of it. And this is the sort of thing, usually once you do it, you only have to do it once. You kind of get it the way you want it. Oh, come on. See, now mine's being dumb. painting weights. It's a funky menu. It's really actually kind of a pain. But if you get the right ones, that's why I usually kind of select all of them. It gives you this little menu, and then you can basically go through it. It defaults to starting off on white, and usually this little tool itself is huge. So if it's big, if it's small, usually if you hold down, oh, come on, B and middle click or left click, it'll help you resize your thing if you ever want to make it big or small. Because I think it starts off about like this big for everybody, like really giant. You can make it really small, and then you're able to kind of go in and go paint details. But it has some basic kind of like shapes and sizes and stuff like that down here. Only thing you really have to worry about is this one right here, the value. So you can set opacity if you want, but value of 1 is going to be white. A value of 0 is black. But let me see if I can get it to work. It's a clunky menu. When it works, it's actually pretty fun. Come on. And I keep hitting cap locks, not shift, which is part of my problem. So let's see, I don't know why this arm's highlighting right now. But if you have a joint selected, you can usually kind of see, like here, I had fingers 3 selected. This is the whole area that this joint, fingers 3, is affecting. If I don't want it to affect as much, like that's the problem we're seeing here with why this is getting kind of funky, is because this is bleeding over. This model is not great for this. Like if you were really doing this for real as a rigger, you would actually go through and hide parts of geometry so you could clean this up better. But I could make this black and then come in and kind of try to paint. I mean, realistically, what I would want to do is come in and actually just go paint the geo on this finger so that it's not bending, because I actually want this finger to bend. I just don't want the other one. If anybody's ever used Substance Painter, this is very, very similar to working with Substance Painter. But you can actually go in and dial in exactly where this joint affects. That's why it's called weight painting, because you're literally painting how this affects stuff. So if you wanted it to only affect this teeny tiny little area and only bend at this joint and not affect the rest of the skin, it's tedious, but you could go through and do that. The paint system in Maya is not great, if I'm being honest, but yeah, again, I don't expect y'all to know how to do all of this. But you see now that bends just at that joint. It's still going to be a little funky, but it's going to try and bend just at that crack and not all over the hand. So if you had any kind of funky little wonky area that you wanted to tinker with, if you want to play with painting skin weights, you can. Like I showed you here, the menu is a little clunky to navigate and deal with, but once you kind of click around it, just if you make sure you're on the geo itself and the outliner, you're manipulating on the skin. You're not actually messing with any of these joints, you're messing with the skin. So I just wanted to show y'all that so you know that it exists. So if anybody was going crazy that this thing was not being controllable. So now at this point, you basically should have a fully functioning rig. We can go start hiding all this junk that we don't want to see. So we have all these locators that we put in here. We don't want these locators. So the way we would go about hiding locators is in the attribute editor. So we've been working here in the channel box editor, this one on the far right like this. The one right below it, right here, is called the attribute editor. So if you click that, it opens up. Again, we don't really use this in animation. We don't use this menu very much, but we do use it for pretty much any other part of anything you do in Maya. This is basically a properties window. So on this, if I was to come in and go under this one that's called object display, it's going to look like this to start with, kind of everything's collapsed. If you click the one called object display, it has a little visibility toggle. If you just turn that off, it still lives here in your scene. You can still select it and use it and do stuff with it, but it's not visible or selectable in your actual file, in your viewport, which is what we want. So I wish I could tell you that there's a less tedious way to do this, that you could do like this and select all of these. You can't. Actually, yeah, it's just going to do it to the last. Whenever you batch select stuff in Maya, like a box select like this, where you just draw a box and pick stuff, it is going to always make everything white, and the last thing it selects stays green. That's the only thing it's going to affect if you box select and try to do these all. But if you select them one at a time, it's tedious, but this is like the only time you ever have to do this. You can literally just click one, turn it off. Click one, turn it off. But this is how we're going to go through and clean up and hide all these locators so that we don't accidentally select them. And you'll know you did it all when there's none left that you can see. Again, this is the sort of thing in a real studio. Somebody would make you a tool that you pushed a button and it did this all for you. But now that is going to be way more easy to work with than this.
And we can do that with all of them.
Every single one of those locators that we made, you're going to go through and hide. Yep. Click, hide. So that visibility controller is super great for stuff like this. There's not a lot of times that you want to have something in your scene but not visible or renderable or usable. But something like this is 100% when you would want that. Yep. So once you get the wrists and the hands, you can just start going through, and anywhere you see one of those locators that we made, which was pretty much every single joint, you can turn off visibility. And you're going to see your rig is going to start getting way easier to see and work with. Because now we're basically getting rid of the opportunity for y'all to accidentally select the wrong thing. Because right now, if we moved those locators, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do. It's not going to move the rig the way we want it to. If you accidentally select a controller on accident and hide it, you can get it back. You can get back any of this stuff. You can just click it over on the side here in the outliner, and you can still, like, I could come in here and click it and turn stuff back on if I wanted. So you haven't lost anything. Nothing's gone in your scene. You're just turning off that it's not visible in your viewer. And you will probably miss one, so don't freak out if you miss one.
I like the XY cities.
We can go turn those off too. I'll show you how to do that. Yes, at this point we're done. We're basically cleaning it up and making it foolproof, that we can't break stuff, that we can only control the stuff we want to control, stuff like that. So I'm sure some of y'all are still probably turning off your little locators, but if you are at the point that I am, that you've kind of got them hidden, now if you want to go select, get all these little things, if you still have these like me on and you're tired of looking at the little XYZs, select, you should be able to select your root, the little root joint, the little with the purple arm here in the outliner, the def root. If you do that, modify or select hierarchy, and then if we go to display, transform display, click local rotation axis. That tool works, I'll show it again to y'all. It works by whatever joints you have selected. If you do display, transform display, local rotation axis, it turns it on. If you want to turn it off again, you have to select the joints that you want to turn it off on. So if we select them all again and then say, it'll turn them off. So far, so good? All right, so we're going to do a couple more little cleanup-y things. So I think I had a good picture on here on the Moodle. So if you go look, you don't have to look, you can look here. But it booted me. Hold on. All right, if you come look, I think it was under this page. Yeah. So you can kind of see on most rigs, it's just kind of the understood, there's basic colors people do for different stuff for a rig. The characters right side, which is going to be like the one looking on here, is going to be on the left side, kind of the same way we named everything. This side was the left, this side was the right. It's just kind of this universally accepted way that the left side of the character is always going to be blue. The right side is always going to be red. Like, see, this one's backwards. They might have just flipped this in the thing. But red, blue. So your left arm, blue. Your right arm, red. So we're going to go ahead and do that in here just to make our controllers a little bit easier to follow. So stuff in the middle of the body, usually we're going to want to have the stuff in the middle of the body yellow. That's just kind of the default color people typically do is yellow for that. So we will leave that yellow. But the other one, so I'm actually going to go select. If you select the shoulder, I should be able to say select hierarchy. Actually, no. I'm going to make sure that we do this right. So we're going to actually kind of do, I'm going to start at the end and shift select each one to make sure that I only select these, because I do still have those locators. Actually, no, it's really okay if we do the locators. I'm telling y'all the wrong thing. So I'm going to select at the shoulder because we want the shoulder. So our little Pringle. And I'm going to do that select hierarchy. And then if you go back to that channel box menu here on the far right, it gives you your layer editor. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer from selection, this one on the far side. And it should throw that stuff all in there. So I can name this, if I double click on that, I can make this blue now. And I'm going to name it left. Or here, I'll say rig left. Or technically these are our controls, so we'll call it control left. And then now if I click away, that stuff should be blue. If for some reason you missed any of them, it's okay, because I'm going to do it now with the legs too, so you can see how I'm going to do it there. I'm going to select that leg control. I'm going to do that select hierarchy. And then I'm going to right click on that layer that we made and say add selected objects. Right there. And now I should have a blue side. That's what we want. You can do the same thing on the other side. We're going to make it red. Let's make a new layer. Name it control right. Could have just said control R, but right is fine. Make that red. I'm going to do my leg. I'm going to add that in there. How do you delete a layer?
Yeah, I accidentally forgot to put the shoulder in the control left.
You can add it back in.
Oh, how do I add the shoulder to it?
So if you have your layer already, just select your shoulder that you want, and then go to the layer itself and right click and say add selected objects. Oh, you clicked away. All right. Add selected objects at the very top. Yep. So we are going to want to make sure that we have half of our thing red, half of it blue. It should look just like this. So at this point, I'm going to turn off my rig in the layer settings we have over here because we don't want to see that. We only want to see these controls. So this already is way easier to make sense of than it was a few minutes ago. Now you can see everything. Everything is nice and neat. We can move stuff. It does what we expect it to. It's nice and easy to follow. Is everybody able to get this far? Cool. So now usually the last step of what you do when you make a rig is pretty straightforward. You basically want to go through and lock people out. Same sort of way we talked about on the foxtail of you want to be locked out of the stuff you don't want to have control over. So if I pick a joint, let's say like I grab just like my elbow, I can see all this different stuff in here. I don't want control of that stuff because technically an animator could grab this and do this. We never hooked up anything but the rotation. So in all, if we did that, that's fine. Our rig still works, but it's going to start getting broken. So we don't want to get rid of that. Like we can't get rid of the ability to translate it. We can, sort of. But it still lives here. Like we don't want somebody to accidentally stumble upon this. So what we have to do is lock out the properties for that. It's the same thing here. I'm going to select. Once you hit this point of your rig, you can kind of start doing this stuff under the hood to it. The proper way to do this would be to go through and actually select each one of your controllers and do this, but we should be actually okay. We'll see if it lets me do this. I think it'll let me do this. If we select like that shoulder and we select hierarchy again, I'm going to see if it lets me do this over here. So I basically want to get rid of the ones that we don't want here. So if I do that, I have everything now selected in this arm. I just want rotation. Don't want scale, don't want translation. If I come over here and I hold down Control and click and drag, I can select different stuff. In fact, I'm going to select visibility too because I don't really care about visibility. If I right click, you have these options down here. So if we said lock selected, it would just lock it. But even one step farther than that, we can say lock and hide selected. If we say that, all we have now is rotations. Let me see if it did it. It did do it for all of them. Yay. Okay, cool. So if you do select hierarchy, it'll let you do it for everything. But now we have essentially locked out, because we don't want animators to break stuff, even though we're being animators. As a rigger, we don't want animators to break stuff. So we have now locked out. So if you go try to translate this or scale it, it's grayed out. You can't do it. It's foolproof that the only thing we can do is what we want them to do with it, which is rotate. Does that make sense why we're locking stuff out? So now you can go through and do that with the other ones. So technically you actually should be able to select just your hip controller, because that's got everything under it. And if you say select hierarchy, you should be able to do it at that level and it should be fine. Lock and hide selected. So let's see. Yeah.
And it should work if it's grayed out, right?
If it's grayed out, you shouldn't be able to control it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you got that far, you should only be able to rotate all this different stuff now. So I did forget one controller that we can make really, really quick that I totally forgot we needed to put in here. We need a major, like a big global controller that we can use to move the whole character if we want, like that big one that's on the ground around them. That's actually a really, really easy one to set up now that we've done this. So if I turn back on the rig, and I just go up to that, remember this curve menu at the top here? If I just make a circle, I'm going to scale it up so it's bigger than my character. But it's going to automatically be at the ground level because of where it's at. So I'm going to make it however big I want, and then I'm going to go to Modify, Freeze Transformations. And because I want this one to look a little different, I'm actually going to make its own layer for it. And I'm going to call, actually no. This is the easy way to do this, to color stuff in Maya, is through the layer editor. You can do it through the actual stuff through the attribute editor, but there's no reason to not do it like this. This is a perfectly fine way to do it. So we can just do it like that. Global controllers, that's what this is. This would be called global, are typically green. This just is kind of the accepted color nomenclature. So same thing, I am going to make another locator. We're kind of going backwards from what we have already done, but we've done this so much, this should be kind of an old hat for everybody. So I'm going to make a locator, so I have one. And I could name it if I want to be responsible and name it, but let's see, I'll call this control global. I think we already made it global. We're going to have this one. And then org global. And I'm going to drag that control into the org. So we have that same hierarchy that we've had for everything else. So now all we need to do is go hook this up to a joint, and that's with our connection editor. So one last time with the connection editor, I promise. But this time, we're going to load that controller on the left, and we're going to select that root joint that we made, that weird one that's like stabbing him in the butt, and we're going to load that on the right. And this time, what we're actually going to connect this to is not rotation, it's only going to be translation. So this one is only going to control moving the whole thing around. So hook it up with translate. And if you do that right, now, I didn't parent it. We will parent it. So if you hook this up like this with translate, now we're going to take our main, you can see, if you like follow everything up, everything is connected into this hip. If I middle click that hip and drop it into the controller for the global, just like we did everything else. Now if I move this around, my character will move. In the controller, just like we did for everything else. I'll show you one more time what I did there. Okay, so you should have this massive, scary looking one. That's our whole big rig that we've done. That's got all of our different pieces and parts from before. It all emanates from the org FK hip. If we grab that and drag it into the control for the global, it's basically parented underneath that now. So that'll let us say basically this big circle on the ground is what everything is talking to. That's why we put this one in the middle. I forgot about that one, the root controller. So we call this global, you could call it roots. There's different names people give them, but it's basically the main one for moving the character in space. None of the other controllers will let you move it with the translation, just with rotation. But if we rotate this one, it'll still follow it. So we have to go fix that so that we can't do that. But the only one that's actually going to move the rig and the character is going to be this one on the ground. Got it? That looks like when you hooked it up, you probably saw it with a locator. So what I would do,
your locators. Scroll down until you see locators. Alright, shoulder R. Oh, alright, so open up. Select that locator. Let's just turn your locator back on for your easy tricks for this is gonna be so select the attention is and take these select, rotate, as you can do that. Do that, do that. Alright, so now we're gonna select, this is why I want the locators. So we're gonna select the locators. Alright, so we're gonna say, now we're gonna select, we're gonna do the dimensions. If y'all got all this set up at this point, this is done. At this point, you would just select this global controller, hide that locator, so select it, and you go to Object Display, under the Attribute Editor, and turn off the visibility so we don't see it. And then you would want to select the controller, the big one on the ground that we just made. And same thing in that channel box editor on the far right, you would want to turn everything off but translate, so we can only see the translation. Everything you turn off the controller, not the curve.
Alright, so look, I'll show you real quick what we're gonna do. Okay, so we have our ground control that we made, this big green one. So I'm going to go to that org, the locator here, which is the little plus sign looking thing in the middle. And I'm going to go to my attribute editor and turn off visibility because I just don't want to see that. So I'm going to select the locator, that org global, and I'm just going to turn off visibility so I don't see it. Then I can select that circle, the controller, and it's going to still light up my whole guy because they're all connected. So I'm going to select that, and then if I go to the channel box editor up here, I can select everything except for translate and say lock and hide selected. So that's how that should look. So now if I go in here, if I try to rotate this, I can't. If I try to move it, I can. Just like if I try to move one of these joints, I can't, but I can rotate it. That make sense? So any locators that you have, any of these things we need org, anything named org, you should be able to go into attribute editor and turn off visibility. And then all the controllers should be set to just rotate in the channel box editor like this, except for this big one on the bottom. That's just set to translate. Then if you turn off your rig so you don't see it, you have a finished rig. So now I should be able to take him. I can move him around wherever I need to start with that controller. And then I can start actually manipulating him with the different poses. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was confused. I'm like, okay. I just forgot. I was confused.
Okay, so you would want to select the org. You only want to select the control. Okay. So now we just need to put that one in the networks right there in the middle. And we're just going to look in the table. Now if you grab that big circle, you should be able to move it in the hole. Ooh, but it's staying off center. Huh.
So you had accidentally selected the locator.
Oh.
It happens. It's so Alright, update that. So now it's staff. Control.
Thank you.
Yeah, see how easy this is? One little thing,
Yes.
everything broke. What happened?
Oh my gosh, that's scary.
Alright, so if y'all got this far, if you have a working rig, everything is beautiful, everything is hidden, everything works, you did it. Congratulations. Rigging sucks. But you did it. Yay. Now the easy parts. You get to make it look cool. So now you can take it, if you get crazy and you want to tinker with painting weights, I don't have a page up about painting weights. I can put one up there if anybody's curious. But you saw from the little bit I was showing you, it's very kind of finicky. I think it's fun once you get in there and kind of deal with it, but I can tell you these fingers are going to be kind of a pain in the butt because whoever modeled this put them like this. So you basically almost have to like hide geo to be able to expose the other parts, so you can only paint one finger and not the other. I don't personally care if the fingers are a little wonky with whatever you do. As long as everything is hooked up right, I'm going to poke through all y'all's files and actually see stuff is set up and hooked up and named right and all that. So as long as everything is hooked up correctly, don't super care about the weights. If it's going to drive you nuts that things warp a little bit, you're welcome to go tinker with that. But at this point, you would just set some keys. So this is a working rig. You would save this and make sure that you have like a fresh version of this that you're starting in Animate, but you could just start at like frame 1, set some keys for whatever pose you want your thing to be doing. So frame 2, set new poses. Frame 3, set new poses. That's it. So find some interesting pictures of movies, TV shows, your friends, whatever you have that you like. Something dynamic, not just somebody sitting in a chair or standing there, like something like, you know, somebody throwing a punch or dancing or doing something super dynamic and cool. Something where you can have fun and try and move this around. But all you're gonna be able to do is rotate stuff, and this will kind of be a good warm up for kind of our next unit where we're gonna actually get to play with all this stuff. But the rig we'll use going forward for the next one, I think we'll use this actual same guy, but we use the full rig that it started with that has IK stuff. Where I was showing you where you can grab his foot or his arm and like do the whole manipulation if you want. So we'll go over that next class of how to like actually manipulate some of that stuff. But for this, just rotate everything and get it into place. See how well you can move your rig around and pose it. But that will be for next class. So y'all have like 45 minutes, 40 minutes, half an hour, about half an hour. If you want to kind of start playing with that. But this should be the super easy part. It's just kind of positioning this in some different poses. I'm kind of go tinker for it. But we might look at some of them next class, but this will just be due. I might give you all a little bit of time next class to finish this up. If anyone has any questions or anything they run into. So I won't say this is due before the start of class. I'll give you like an hour in the class to maybe finish up stuff. But if you show up and you have not done any of it, I'm going to be very sad and mad at you. I'm going to make a note and be like, yeah, we're not doing anything. So make sure you come in with something. Do you want to?
The dynamic poses or the?
Yeah. So definitely get going on your dynamic poses. But if you're like, I had a question or I had something I want to finish up or something, that's fine. Yeah.
What is the best way to do the poses? Would it be to like keyframe the, like to have 3?
Yeah, so the best way to do it really doesn't matter what frame you do it on. If you just kind of work in this default file, if it's me, I would do 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So that's going to be the easiest. This is actually a good one if you want to play with putting on an auto key. Down there. It's helpful because then at least you're just kind of moving everything and then from pose to pose. So if you want to do it like that, what you could do if you really wanted is turn on something like that. You could grab all these controllers, set a key, go to the next one, set a key, go to the next one, set a key. So you have 3 frames where it's all in T-pose, and then you'd have a fresh thing to start from for each one. So otherwise, it's going to be, you know, if you have somebody doing like a crazy Spider-Man pose, when you go to the next frame, he's still in that crazy Spider-Man pose. So y'all should all come to class with your 3 poses. Everybody should have 3 poses. But if you still need to save stuff out, if you need to like, you know, get screenshots or whatever, I'll give everybody a little bit of time to kind of finish that up. But then we can jump back into animating and actually moving stuff and doing fun stuff. So, anybody have any questions? Oh, sure. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, so let's turn up on your rig and the layer is together. So you're going to open up the connection editor. So Windows, General.
Oh, wait.
Alright, so load this guy in there. And we're going to select that one, the rig controller. Yeah. So we're going to hook this up just to translation. We only want to be able to move I know, it's not, I don't know why this menu thing sucks. It's always been like this.
Because you're selecting it only not the control.
Select that.
And you should be able to like move it out. The order for this,
That one too.
should not be.
So now, I do too, that's what I do. Now if you select just this controller, and move it around, it should, the rig will move.
Did you put that?
Yes.
They
Now
just don't
want
like
the rig to move with it.
Yeah.
You just have to turn it on. Oh, so here. Forward. I'm sorry. Okay. So we're comparing, so here. First, this should go into that locator. Click that circle. Real quick. Freeze transformation. Modify. Freeze transformation. Okay. So now you're going to turn your hip, right? You have this word hip.
And you just see right there. If you're moving
Basically saying everything is
right.
going to move in this thing. So now if you try and move that big circle around,
I mean, I would have moved it in that circle.
so
But
now,
don't worry about this.
if you wanted just to go through and go lock out.
Yeah.
So did you do those on the rotation?
Yeah.
So you can select right here.
Because mine's doing the same
Select.
Or it's like, it doesn't take the,
Like, okay, good.
Oh.
Gotcha. Okay. So whichever one you didn't get, you can come in and
Cancel
yeah,
class.
do those.
Yeah, that can be. What? I said I hope my teacher or teacher cancels class because the other people.
That was 2 days ago, y'all.
I know.
Dude, my friend, she's in a clown class, and he lives in New Orleans, and he drives. It's like it's a whole thing. She's in a clown class, and this professor drives from New Orleans every single Tuesday, and he was like, "Hey guys, I'm canceling the entire week because I'm gonna be drunk. So don't even bother showing up because I'm not gonna be drunk." He's head of the poetry like club in New Orleans. Like he runs the entire thing.
I mean, respect the game, but
And he
like,
wanted to do a clown class. Like her one thing that she has to have in the class is a clown dance.
all the time.
She just has to have it in her bag.
Oh wow.
And it's you need to. Oh my god, I need
What's
you to
your
meet her
shirt
later. I need you to meet her later. She's the hoot.
My favorite drawing teacher from second semester had used to drive all over New Orleans.
Yeah, we have a couple in the art department that live in here.
She also went to St. Mark. And did you hear about the professor?
Oh,
Dude,
I
that
know.
was like the topic of conversation all week. That was crazy.
Wait, what
How did
happened?
this work? And they were, oh.
All-girls Catholic school, this professor just started teaching there. She's a biology teacher. She just graduated she got her PhD in speech, okay? She's there for one semester. She had a relationship with a student. All-girls Catholic school. Yes, lesbian relationship. So and they were making out behind the Barracuda.
What?
It's a bar. They have really good tacos though.
Wait.
She wanted her tacos.
topic of conversation.
The topic everyone brought up.
It is so juicy. So juicy. She wanted her to be sad.
Anyway, look a whole
Absolutely not. No, she was just.
Bye, Mookie. Love you.
Just rotate. Don't grab that. No. Don't, yeah. Don't do that. Don't be scared.
I really hope not.
What should I do?
If it is close enough, then that changes everything. I still have to go look at it because I haven't been able to look at it. You know, if anything, I'm not going like 8 hours.
Like literally everyone gives me like I'll let her know.
Like it just says mistakes made. Yeah, Thursdays. I'm so sorry. Huh? No, that's not short. I looked up and then all I see is I'm very I handle it. That's my business.
Is like I'm on my mind. You don't? He doesn't. You don't have digital art? Did he? Was he drunk? Was he hungover? Wait.
I don't know if he's
Oh, my professor's I didn't do Portland.
I don't see what's in here. There's a chance that that's so this I can jump through doors. I jump through.
My spark came back.
So
I'm gonna go home. Hi guys.
I was really holding on both of my hands. But now I have like a 3 hour break. How's your period? How's your period?
It's good. I did feel a little bit too. It's so bad. I was receiving it, and it was like a limp because this car that was converting one of the folks, the engine was like, and so I had to go to the side of the road and just stay there while other folks go to figure out how to like maneuver around it.
Yeah.
And each of those like 30 minutes on the road. So we see one float and then right to the
And was this the other parade with that music?
It had music, other people were like DJing. That was good. It was so hot.
I ended up not going to any parades this year because I really
I don't either. I don't because so like when I'm going there and I want to cancel, but I was like, I should have canceled.
No. I went back with my family and like I went back home, saw my grandma. And then woke up the morning of the parade. I was like, nah, I can't be fucking with this.
No, I don't know. It's just really before
It's like the same issue with like average honesty.
and it's just people throwing cheap stuff.
Yeah,
Like I don't know what I'm gonna do with 500 beans after this.
oh yeah, just smelt them down and done.
It creates so much waste.
Oh yeah, I'm actually so happy we don't have to do this. We don't? Also, the time is wrong on this computer. Oh, you can't fix these things right now? Yeah, that was such a long walk too. Like I keep on oversleeping and then staying home, and so like all of a sudden I don't have the walking stamina anymore. So like, I think doing some stretches before I walk, like tomorrow, like you gotta get into like the bottom where it's like, okay, I gotta get ready. So literally across the no, I've been like just gallivanting around the movie. I'm like, I'm not seeing it every day personally. I'm like, loving this Olympus coming on. So like anytime I have basketball, I'm like, I love the fact that I come up with that. I'm just like my hero, so I'm like, oh, I can do it. I've been trying to talk about the other than not standoffish, but not like the talking type.
The problem I just have the same issues where like their brain is anxious and comes off. It could just be that.
I think it is sometimes too because I swear on some days people think I look like a nerd because there was this week I walked past this one guy who was like, Jesus loves you. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
To be fair, it's like you need to just say really understand.
Yeah, I don't know how I look that day. It was probably not a good looker.
Sometimes I have that looking in the class that in the other class. Sometimes like the professor will just hide and I'm just like, I need to.
Stop hiding from me. I'll just do this.
Everyone moves too fast, it's like you blink and I'm all of a sudden go home.
She did say that. Sorry, I asked her about. She did say that she's probably gonna have like the official list for. I think early March or something.
Early March.
I mean, at least we'll talk about it.
Definitely go talk to her.
Huh?
You're going to go talk to her.
But like, I think
Well, do you know like the times they start out here or like can we take it?
like it's not.
I mean, they learn. I was like, I don't really know what.
You can do this.
I can do this. Like we're low.
Okay.
I think that's what she said.
I don't hate it, but
So like she said early March, that's when we're gonna see it.
pay somebody to make it.
Maybe not even.
That's the problem. I just think that I can't move this into
So like, yeah, if you try
I would love to let Marty
but
blend
just
it.
thought I'd tell you about it.
Alright.
Okay,
Well,
bye.
no, like you can't translate this kind of blend and the rest like it's very different process in Blender, which I'm like, because Blender's free, so I want to get into Blender.
Our beginning of the new like beginner who do modern classes, they were in beginning, so like I have like a little bit of knowledge, but it's like definitely basic. Every semester since we started on the new program, it's been different. First semester was one different, second semester was fresh, and now it's not. If it helps, it is simpler than it seems.
I have heard that.
Yeah. So what I would suggest, you had asked for a suggestion on maybe what I would suggest is that you just go in, and if there's like a specific thing you want to do, you just look at the tutorial board and just follow along.
Because like I think it's like like I'm only like Marty made like the art channel.
Oh, I haven't played it, but I know the art type is. And that's not Ouija, that's really cool.
Okay, because like I see it and I'm like, not gonna lie, some people think a lot of those things like are weird and not complex. Like you can do a lot of things outside of the chat. Just like not for that.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I support it.
I really want to get into like what our other classes because I really want to get into special effects, but I have to admit like it's kind of limiting in certain ways. Yeah,
It probably feels more limiting than it actually is. Like for me, what I struggle with Move is like knowing what modes to use and like how to use them. And it's like, it's basically the same thing with coding. And I'm like, man.
I guess like
What time is it?
with projects, I think part is just because I think practice it more. But I think this part is just that I need practice more. I remember when we have our project, I'm like, I can make this so much better if I like will take any memories of Photoshop in high school. Like I can make it so just so much better. So like, how do I do this and this?
Like, making a reflection of Move is like 10 times more complicated than it would be in like any other program, right?
Yes. But I also understand.
I mean, besides
Oh yeah,
this,
besides this.
fine.
My day was going horrible because I woke up late and got here late, like 15 minutes late. And now it's going better because teaching is canceled, keeps coming over.
That was this professor?
Jordanos. I'm all over this stuff. Because he canceled it like a week ago. So like, is that it could be that he's not hungry, but I feel like it's really funny to just say that he's hungry.
I mean, morning run was 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and SCW was optional.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's
Yeah. But he doesn't come off as a drinking type, so it could be the weed type.
You never know.
I do not. I never know. That's a good point.
I wanna see if I can do drop the model, but I'm working on it. It's in the other route. You don't have to have.
I'm trying to lose it.
I'm gonna figure out these next 3 hours or so until 3:30 where I have my time. I think I'm just gonna enjoy living for once.
You could do it without it. You know, like, you could do it without it.
They got roommates.
We got a couch. I'm just kind of sliding around my way back.
You just hear me snoring. I'm gonna be shaking the whole building.
Oh, this will be the simple one.
I'm not actually that loud of a snorer. Leo says like I just do quiet snoring. But my siblings definitely. Like my littlest brother, Jameer, snores like my granddad in his 50s. And you have so funny.
Well, I have never snored in my life.
I mean, to your knowledge, you're literally asleep.
My grandparents, one day when I was.
Sorry, I wasn't drunk.
No, listen,
Harder.
I don't mind being here.
I'll try harder next time. I'll drink more before I come here. More than I usually do.
This is my favorite class this semester, so.
Yeah.
I actually like being here, except for struggling with ribbon.
See, but we're all struggling together.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a
like, that
communal
makes it
struggle.
better, but if I have to do this on my own,
You would suck.
I would, yeah, it's like,
My bottle was so broken that I had to use her juice for this one. Like, I just broken scissors.
how the fuck did you do
I'll just have a look at it.
I don't know.
So yeah, select that and go to that action
I
menu
wanna go with you, girl.
and turn off visibility. Yeah. If you want to make that main one on the ground a little easier to see, you can make it green. Like I was doing.
What are you doing with it?
Are you already taking my stuff? She steals my stuff and helps me. But that's it. So then you would just do some poses with them. And look at you, like you put lots of poses. That looks so cool. That's great. But dude, you can take this if you want them to get up in the air. You can set that up too. You want the whole hair up in the air. Those are great poses. Very good. That's cool. So you're doing it in a spectacle, which is totally fine. Like I was saying, we said if you wanted, you could make a camera. If you wanted to play specifically with your camera and work with that there. I like it. That and you can put colors in the camera and go for the shallow. You survived drinking. I could do it for money. Yeah. I know. But hey, I know some people who absolutely live and breathe drinking and love it, teach it to other people, and it's their whole world. It's not good people.
What are we again?
You can get into where like you can start setting limits to things, or like I don't want this them to do something more about past this amount. You know, like we're going to be doing blend shapes and all these other things.